And then it goes back to Kanye. How Kanye's kind of like, yeah, you got to wake up. Like there's
That's what he's trying to say. The whole people don't get it, man. Kanye has been trying to tell people the truth, and he's struggling because he doesn't want to get killed. That's what Kanye's problem is.
Or locked down in a mental institution.
Or locked down in a mental institution. See, people have to, like you said, people have to listen closely to what Kanye says, because he's trying to drop little hints, and he's struggling, but he's trying, and he's scared. He's scared for his family's life. He's scared for his life. He clearly came out on stage and said it. You know, and he said it. It sounded crazy. Oh, Jay-Z, don't have me killed, bruh. You know, he's trying to tell people something. But people don't, oh, he's crazy, because they go, like you said, well, what media says. Mm-hmm. Oh, Kanye bugged out. You know, I've seen Snoop Dogg go on the video and say, oh, Kanye's bugging. No, you know Kanye ain't bugging.
And you know, Snoop's part of the machine. So
yeah. He come out, but no, Snoop wasn't wrong. Snoop said, yeah, he said Kanye's bugging because he knew Kanye was going against the machine.
Yeah, but also,
but he knew he's not crazy.
But Snoop plays along. He's part of the machine.
Of course he is. Everyone does.
Yeah,
all these stars do.
He ain't gonna mess up with this. Yeah, all the people that come out against the machine or mention anything about the machine, they get blackballed.
They get blackballed or killed. Well, they're not killing them anymore. Like you said, they just blackballing them. But back in the day, they would get killed, man.
Remember Mel Gibson when he went on that tirade about the Jewish people in Hollywood, and then he didn't work for a bunch of years. Now they're finally starting to let him work.
With his daughter, and she was dating a black dude.
Yeah, and then he goes on these tirades, and they're finally working again. And then I think Tom Cruise did it. He said some shit, and he didn't. But he's a pretty lucrative actor, so like they usually always still kind of work with him. But
you got to look at somebody, for instance, like Cat Williams, right? He comes straight out and openly said, oh, you know, the Illuminati, these secret societies, and they paint him up as crazy. Same thing with people like DMX, you know. Cat Williams gets painted out as this nut job, and you know they had him go to jail so many times that I really started looking at Cat Williams like a super nut job. Seriously.
And they got DMX all drugged out.
They got him drugged out. They got Cat Williams, same thing. They get him drugged out. You know, so where it's like, okay, everything they do now looks crazy, you know?
What about Craig Mack? Right? So Craig Mack.
How did he die, man?
I don't know if he took pills and committed suicide. I think they said I don't remember if he had respiratory failure. Like,
you know, he gave his life to God, you know that, right?
Right.
He was heavy in the church, so it's kind of weird. Like, it didn't make sense to me.
But he did it because of the music industry. You know, like the whole where he was going with the industry and all that kind of stuff. I guess he didn't want to play ball. You know what I mean? And I guess like after he got screwed over by Puffy, it was kind of like, oh, this shit ain't gonna work. Yeah, and he went hardcore. Like he was like an occult type thing almost. He lived there, he did everything. And then there's a documentary, I think on YouTube, a couple of years ago, from his friends here on Long Island. They did it. And they talked about him, and they talked about the situation with Bad Boy, and you know how, you know, even Flavor in the Year, like he didn't want to do that song, like he was like forced on him. You know, he had a different rap style, and Puffy made him change his style, and there's all this shit that they did. But yeah, but that's what they do. Like they drive you out, they make you crazy, or they at least they label you crazy, and they get you all drugged up. That's how they handle, like you said, they don't kill anybody. Well, I think they might still, some people.
Yeah, some people. Because some people you just can't control, and no matter what you do, some people have so strong of a voice that they will, you know, they'll completely expose you, and they figure out just kill them.
Yeah, and like, you know, you see these people who like
Michael Jackson, they offed them, man.
Well, after listening to Quincy Jones, I mean, Michael Jackson was very greedy.
He was. I believe that. I believe he was very greedy, but he did start going against the machine.
He stole a lot of ideas from other artists. He wouldn't give people credit.
but I don't listen to that though. You know what I look at? I look at when Michael Jackson starts calling people out.
Yeah.
You know, he starts calling them devils. You gotta see what Mike was doing, man. Mike knew everything. You know, Mike knew the deepest, darkest secrets, I'm sure, of a lot of these people and what goes on. So when Mike starts calling people devils, Tommy Batola, and all these people evil, and he starts talking more, and it's like we never see Mike talking like that. So what do you think people are gonna do after all these years? After Mike goes, and now he's talking up. What do you think is gonna happen? People are gonna listen.
Well, look at Quincy Jones. That whole interview he did a couple months ago, and he just started spilling the beans on everybody. And when the person asked him in the article, like, well, why are you saying all this stuff now? And he's like, because I'm old. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I'm in a good place. Who gives a shit? You know? And he's 80-something years old or whatever. And he said that, you know, he dropped a lot of bombs that made a lot of people like, whoa, wait a second. How? Because a lot of people he talked about are dead, right? So people were like, well, that's not fair. You say only people about dead people. But then people said, yeah, well, he wasn't going to say this shit when they were alive because it would have damaged their careers. So he's like the last man standing, and he don't care. So in a way, you look at it and say, could it be all true, like everything he said? Because, you know, it does make sense, a lot of it. Or is he just like tooting his own horn, you know, just saying whatever?
Nah, I don't just see him saying whatever. At this stage in his life, it's kind of like he's been holding it in all these years.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
he exploded. That's what happens. People, you know what I mean, man. Like when you're holding something in, and he's just thinking about this stuff all the time, and you know, he probably wanted to expose it years ago. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's to the point where he just boom all at once. That's what happens.
Well, but don't forget too, his mom. You know, he seemed very sane, but his mom was in an insane asylum most of his youth. His mom was a nut. And even when she got out, he was in his late teens, I think he said, and he tried to reconnect with her, but she went from being in a nut house to like devoting herself to God, and then everything became about, don't forget, because he got into music industry in his teens, right? And she did not accept. Now get this, she was in a mental institution his pretty much his whole early life. But when he tried to reconnect with her, he said that now she's devoted to God and she saw the devil in everything, and that now everything he's doing in his life, making money and able to give her a better life, she was like, you can't do this, you can't do that. So he just was like, boom, bye, and just kicked her to the curb, I think. Like, get out of here. Can't have anything to do with you. It's like, you know, she was trying to clamp down on him. But, I mean, when you listen to the stories he tells, I mean, he's describing the devil. When you think about the stories he tells about his life, right? And all the shit that he did and all the shit these other people were doing. Yeah. I mean, his mom wasn't far off, because like everything he said is like some crazy shit. Like the drugs, all like the homosexuality between everybody, like that nobody knew about. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's dropping all these bombs on people, and you're like, okay, yeah, celebrity Hollywood bad, you know?
Richard Pryor talked about all of this stuff, man.
Yeah, I don't think people believed him, though. I think because he's a comedian.
No, he was dead serious. I look back at it now and I was like, wow, he's just...
No, but people didn't believe him.
Because he was cracking it. He was saying it in jokes, but you can tell he was serious.
Right, well, his second wife, I think it was, they interviewed her for comment after what Quincy Jones said about him, and she said, yeah, no, that's true. So, like, but I think because he was a comedian and joked, that people were like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. And then now everybody's like, oh, okay. He was being honest. And it wasn't just him. There's a lot of people. Marvin Gaye. You know, I mean, crazy shit. Marlon Brando.
Yeah, man. I said, oh, wow. These dudes.
And Ray Charles, and, you know, how big of a heroin junkie he was. I mean, the shit about Ray Charles is nuts. The shit that he was not allowed to play in certain like cities because he was such a heroin addict. They didn't want him there.
Oh wow.
So like there was this whole thing where he had to like he was clean for like 6 or 9 months, but then Quincy I think said he was never really clean. They just like he did less so he could perform, and they'd get into different places because he was being blacklisted because he was such a junkie. Oh yeah, like crazy shit, man. Quincy was on heroin too. I think he said for like a year or something like that he did heroin, and he said Ray Charles got him started on it. He quit because he got hurt. He fell down like a whole flight of stairs. He was high. He just next thing you know he woke up on the bottom of the stairs all messed up, and he realized he's like, oh my god. And if you didn't read that article, it's crazy. He was in a car. Listen to this. Quincy Jones was in a car when he was in his teens, and he was working with his band, right? And they used to drive themselves to gigs, right? And he's out in California, and he's in the back seat of the car, and there's 4 people in the car, him and 3 other people. They got in an accident with a tractor trailer, and it took the top of the car off, and it killed everybody but Quincy. And Quincy in the article says that like the guy next to him got decapitated. His head was totally off, and he's like, "Here I am, and I'm alive." And he's like, "This is nuts," He's like, "This is crazy," but the whole article is like that. But if everything he says is true, like he talks about all the people he hung out with, the Clintons, Hillary Clinton, the Clintons. He didn't hate Hillary, but he said everybody always knew there was something off about her, and he said that she was never going to win being president because everybody knows her. There's something off about her. He talks about it in the article. I'm like, he wouldn't say what it was. He goes, but people that know her know what it is. He insinuated shit about people getting killed. Like he knew the Kennedys. He was friends with them because he knew Marilyn Monroe. They were all friends because he was friends with Sinatra. It was Sinatra and Ray Charles that kind of really brought him into the music industry. So he talks about that, Marilyn Monroe, Kennedy getting assassinated, and he like all this crap. Like he said that people know who killed Kennedy, and he said that's all I'm gonna say. Like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like he leaves stuff out there.
Of course, people know who. It wasn't a who. It was a group.
But it'd be interesting if he's telling like the full truth. Because if he's telling the full truth, he lived a crazy life.
I could see it being possible, man. And I don't know why he would lie. You get what I'm saying?
Some people make that up. But some people that have a legacy like him sometimes cement it with more outlandish. And you got to remember too, he's talking about it pretty much almost everybody he's talking about is dead. You know what I mean? So they can't dispute it. He's talking
even if they were alive, right? Even if they were alive, they would try to dispute it anyway. Or they may not dispute it, but for reasons why, I don't know. But if they were alive, of course they're going to defend themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Now, don't forget, he's friends with Bill Cosby, right? Close friends with Bill Cosby. And in the interview, they asked him about Bill Cosby and the whole rape charges thing. And this is before he was convicted, because it was a couple months ago. He refused to talk about it. He said, I won't talk about it. So he's talking, and people said that if they read this article, I read some things, people were saying, so he's dropping all these bombs on all these dead people, but he won't talk about his friend Bill Cosby. But yet all these people he's dropping bombs are close friends with him. People said, like...
You know what's crazy? Yeah, that makes sense, but what he would have said with his mouth, he probably would have got Bill Cosby locked up.
Oh, no, he probably got himself incriminated.
Yeah, himself, yeah, because they probably did some stuff together. That's probably what it is. Yeah, that's probably what it is. So, I don't know. I guess it kind of makes sense. But I'm sure he's had plenty of people on his casting couch.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure men and women.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
I wouldn't doubt it. Because if you read the article and he talks about everything that's going on, you say to yourself, okay, So he got involved in everything but that. Kind of hard to believe because when he's telling the stories about, you know,
And especially the way that underground, you know, is over there.
the drugs, you
Yeah.
know, and he's talking about how he talks about Marlon Brando, how like Marlon Brando charmed everybody, Marvin Gaye, Richard Pryor, and it didn't matter. So you're telling me he didn't charm you? You talk about this guy like he was a god.
Well,
Yeah, he
you know what
didn't
it is?
charm you.
You hear about these industry parties, right?
Mhm.
And the things all these people do to make it, right?
Yep.
So that started years ago. You get what I'm saying? These
And
are the
don't
things that were going on in the 30s and 40s around
Yeah,
that time, 50s.
And don't forget, he got into the industry young. He was brought in. They had him using drugs, heroin, all this stuff. You're telling me that like they didn't turn him out, like they turned all these other people out? Come on.
That's how they get you. Exactly. They get you on them drugs. You know, you wake up, you was raped or something like that, or not even, or you participated in it. You get what I'm saying? You openly
that's what I'm
participated in it, and they got you.
That's what I'm saying. Like he talked about all this, you know, things about his life, but then like a lot of the bad stuff he said about people that are dead, but he was with them. You have to assume that a lot of the stuff that he was saying about these people, he was involved in the same thing. He was doing the same thing they were doing because he was with them all the time. And he was. So you tell me he did everything but, you know, some of the most salacious shit? I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't believe it either. You know, and he was. See, the thing is with the others that were around him, like you said, the comedians that you talked about, like Richard Pryor. See, those guys were trying to tell people the whole time, right? And they would even talk about. It's funny because you know Richard Pryor would talk about like the secret parties and how wicked the industry was, but nobody really understood it back then.
Yeah.
So where if you listen to guys like that now, you're like, oh, he was telling us the whole time, you know.
Right.
And a lot of time when these guys talked about it, they didn't look happy. Like sometimes I remember Richard Pryor would tell jokes, right? And he'd say something, and he'd be dead serious, looking with a straight face, and everybody's laughing. And I'm like, this guy's dead serious. He doesn't look happy.
Well, you remember when Eddie Murphy got arrested with that transvestite?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you think he randomly picked her up by accident? He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. You know, that's what they're. You know, that's easier. It looks like he's with a woman, but
Yeah,
what
man.
he's into. It's crazy, man. It's just the way it is.
It is. It's the way it is.
There's this whole seedy underworld